Doug, what is going on?
Hey, life is good. And we had a nice visit today. Client dropped off a special delivery for you.
I am thrilled to get some peaches from the peach truck. I haven't had them before. Our friend Jamie came over on the 3rd of July to bring us a box, but we were all working remotely, and so we missed out on the peach truck that day. And I put on our disclaimer today, Doug. I don't know if you saw this. Choose joy over happiness, because the peach truck people, if you can see it, have been delivering joy since 2012. What do you think? 2012.
That's impressive. That's a good run. I love the idea of an idea and it working.
And Lisa, who brought those in, she came in with a lot of joy today, and it was just it fit right into some thoughts I had as we prepared. I'm going to take these safety disclaimers off. If you're eating fruit, make sure it's ripe. And if you happen to get some of the peach truck peaches, we learned you need to sit them on the counter and let them ripen up a little bit before you start chomping on the solid ones that sound like you're eating an apple. So that's what I know about our disclaimer
At
today.
the bottom of the disclaimer, it says these thoughts are the opinions of Gimbal Financial or something like that. And that truly is the case. And oftentimes I might get, hey, Doug, what do you think about the market? Or, hey, Doug, what do you think about this specific stock? And here's what I might think. I really like the company. It's a great company. I use the company myself, but the stock's not great. Or, yeah, I could see that stock right now, but by next Friday, I might hate the stock. And so our opinions can change. And welcome to the world. You are allowed to have your opinion change. Just because it's recorded on Facebook or wherever this message lands, doesn't mean it's our opinion forever. So anyway, just want to throw that out there.
I would like to think that any of opinions that we would save on a recording like this would also be in a kind and a loving way, because we have personal opinions we prefer not to put on media like this, because they could change. I used to think that when I got married, I honestly, guess how many children I wanted to have?
I know how many children you wanted to have.
That number right there. And that was a fairly strong opinion at that point. And 5 kids later, that opinion was transformed dramatically. And so to pound the table with an opinion, particularly when I was in my late 20s, I was transformed in my thoughts in those. So that's my thought. Nothing to do about investments, but just about how opinions may change over time.
And we're still learning. That's the best part of the stock market. It's a great t-shirt of what's going on in business and capitalism and in the world of creation. It is just plotted daily in the stock market. So I'm constantly learning.
The cool thing, I was talking to our friend Scott last week, and we were talking about some of the best money managers, investors over time. And I said, I've had the pleasure to meet some of them. Like, we have an invitation to meet, is it Larry Hite, Stan Weinstein, and spend some time with Mark Minervini and probably some other great investors this fall. And I said, the one thing that I really appreciate about those guys is, in my experience in life, they are some, not just them specifically, but great investors are some of the most humble people you'll meet. And the reason is they've made so many mistakes. And they've learned to accept the fact that they're fallible and they make mistakes. And as long as you live in that facade that you don't make mistakes, you're probably going to be a little fragile. And that was what I was telling you yesterday about fragility. Is I was so happy I was cleaning my green egg, and I didn't tighten the bolt on it tight enough on Saturday. And when I opened it and was doing some stuff on it, and it was smoking hot, I realized I didn't tighten the bolt, and it just, in slow motion, tipped. If you don't know what a green egg is, it's a ceramic grill that's not inexpensive, and the lid just exploded on the ground. And I was so frustrated, probably for a minute, and then I just started laughing as everybody makes mistakes, and I got to go on.
Makes mistakes. We're not robots. I like the New York Yankees, and George Steinbrenner. He wanted to win every game. And not only did he want to win every game, he communicated that with a lot of flair. to his team. And I remember Reggie Jackson, he had a terrible game that he was being interviewed, and Reggie Jackson said, "Look, I'm not perfect." And the stock market can make you feel that way. Like you want to win every time, but you're not perfect. You're not going to get them all right. And so anyway, it's a great teacher. We've got opinions. We want to learn more. We want our opinions to grow and change too. So,
well, and I think how you all will see our opinions is in the form of a confirmation email or paper confirmation. And that's just our opinion. When we buy something on your behalf, that's an opinion based on hours and hours of studying. But when we realized that opinion was wrong, we would probably get you out of that sooner than later. And our ideal situation is the opinion is right. We can hold on to it for a long term.
well, when we buy something, we actually have a contingency opinion
Right.
in case we're wrong.
Right.
And you might see that quickly on a confirmation.
Well, our friend Lisa that came in here, she said she was in Alaska last week, and we didn't get a lot of chance to talk about that. But when I took our family there in our RV a decade ago, most of the prep time was for contingency ideas. We had on that RV trip a $5,000 budget for repairs, which that would freak a lot of people out, right?
Yeah, in $5,000, think what you need today.
Right, right. And so what that did is the contingency plan of that built my emotions before the event.
Glad you're
So
relaxed.
yeah, so when we put aside that $5,000, when we had a blowout on the Alaskan highway, I knew we had money set aside for that, and it ended up, I think we only spent about 20% of the budget, and so I'm like, that was a victory, right? That was a big victory. So by having contingency plans, I think what it does in all aspects of life is it helps manage your emotions better. If you think this journey I'm going, if you think I'm going to the airport and everything's going to work out right, you are wrong. I can tell you today, you are absolutely wrong. That it is not going to work out right. Yeah. So there you go. We had quite a rampage on that finish.
Show.
Let's take a look at the NASDAQ real quick, and I'll let you direct what our point of conversation is here.
This is a picture. This is a picture in motion, and it's been good. The NASDAQ's been chugging along. It's been a leader. There are a group of stocks that are technology oriented that are just doing fantastically. And I think back to some of the conversations we had a few months ago during the banking crisis, and everyone was concerned what was going on in the banks. And it seems to me that some of the money that would have gone to quote unquote safer stocks the opinion has changed, and that the technology companies are some of those more trusted names. And we're seeing that reflected in the price of the NASDAQ. So what we have is we've got a good rally, going into the NASDAQ. The prices have been moving up. The buyers have been coming in. You can see that down below, Keith, if you want to just circle that big block of blue. Yep. That's a lot of buying coming in. And so it's been very encouraging to see. And this could calm down. Typically the summer months, there's less productivity happening in the summer months, but not this summer. The NASDAQ has been the leader so far. So that's what I see in the NASDAQ. There's
a constant opinion in investment circles: sell in May and go away. And this May would have been a bad plan, I think, particularly this week. You see the volumes picking up from last week right down here, and it's been a big, looks like it's saying almost 4% up week in the market. And it was, let me clear out my markings on there. And this, for those of you who want the technical things, they call this in the industry a tight range, where it's been trading for 4 or 5 weeks, and it came out of that tight range on increased volume. So there's buyers trying to get in there. Yeah, those short vertical lines, tight lines, that's what we like to see. And if you look to your left, you can see some longer lines. And that's exactly what we don't like to see, because it basically means that buyers and sellers are not in agreement. They're not in alignment. Whereas over to the right, they're fighting for pennies. And we like to see that. I was Oh, I was sending somebody a note today and I didn't want to use the word volatile because it's not a very expressive word of what is going on there. And so I was looking for a synonym, and the synonym that I found that I liked was skittish. And the longer lines are like a skittish animal. They're running around wildly. And the shorter ones are when the market's not as skittish. And so that's another way to think about volatility is that the more anxious something is, the more it'll swing up and down. You want to look at something else here, Doug?
I think one other observation is just to notice, Keith and I were talking about this before we clicked the go button. And if you look and see where the prices are today above the 200-day moving average, it's been very encouraging because we spent a lot of time talking about prices when they were below the 200-day moving average. And so that's the difference is the air is a little more clear now that we're above the 200-day. And what Keith and I would both like to see is we'd like to see more and more stocks start to participate. And that could be in smaller cap stocks, international stocks. We just like to see the breadth start to spread out.
It was brought to my attention this morning. I was watching a show and they pointed out that if you took out the top 10% of the S&P 500, and this chart is a picture of the S&P 500, and it's had quite a rally in 2023. But if you took out the top 10% of those, the market would be down year to date, which is really quite concerning if you don't have those top 10% as to the major portion of your portfolio. And this is how we pointed out last week and several weeks before. You would see that in the broader market here, with you see a skittish market with the smaller companies, and we finally maybe starting to see a little bit of curiosity on that side of the market.
When I first got into the investment business, this would have been 1998. I can remember folks talking about a strategy called dogs of the Dow. And basically, you all have heard this strategy. It's find what got beat up the most and buy that. And I'm not advocating this, okay? I'm just talking about it. And the dogs of the Dow was a strategy that worked for a lot of people. However, there's times to just look at the leaders. And if you don't have a game plan on when to sell your leader, you could get caught holding the bag. And that's what we saw in February of 2020, when the COVID pandemic started to happen. There are many people who got caught holding the bag. So having a contingency plan on the downside to know who the leaders are, to know the rotations is really important. And that's what Keith and I are doing when we're looking at these charts.
That's a good word right there. How about a shift away from the market a little bit and talk about a little bit of financial planning? And I was prompted to summarize my thoughts on financial planning a few years ago, and I write them on my business card. And I've told you all these before. One's think differently. Secondly is to buy wisdom. Third is to like what you do. Fourth is to live adventurously. And then the last one of the major things I see is generosity wins.
Hold it up there in case someone wants to take a shot with their cell phone. You might scoot it back just a little. There you go. If you want to take a shot at your cell phone, that might be a good thing to ponder and consider.
And what I thought we would just talk about that a little bit today. The thinking differently suggests that the crowd is mostly wrong, and that is a little unnerving if you don't have some self-confidence to say, you know what, I think everybody's crazy. And like I was sharing with you earlier, this idea I had is like the university system we've mentioned doesn't seem to be working as effectively. What if instead of using the university, what if corporations decided we're going to act like Major League Baseball and we're going to have a draft? We're just going to pay close attention to the high schools, pay close attention to the best students in there, pay attention to the best students in whether it's in the science department, or I don't even know if they have shop classes. I think like North Central has the Javert Light Center. We're going to find those best people, and rather than assuming that the universities are going to get them, we're going to bid out to these people and train them ourselves and bring them in right out of high school so that we can get the best and brightest, because I had talked about, I think a couple of weeks ago, the idea that you give those 4 years to the university, you're giving up 4 years of income, plus you're going into debt. So you may end up $250,000 behind the person that comes right out of high school. So that was one of the different ideas I was pondering today.
Saw that play out this week, talking with one of you. Your son was going to school in New York City, in high school in New York City, and got hired by a firm in Brooklyn, and he's not going to college. He's killing it.
Well, and these ideas are maybe even life-changing ideas, what I just throw out there, because Lisa, when she came in, she was talking about her son Patrick and how much he is loving his job. And her enthusiasm made my day start. Like she was, were you pretty excited about that whole situation?
The thing I was most excited about is she had explained to her son, there's a shelf life of opportunity here at my house. Now, what you want to do outside of your house outside of my house is cool, but we have a shelf life of opportunity here, and so you might as well take some risk. And he's taking risk.
Yeah, and he's
saving money.
He's saving $500 a week, I
Yeah,
think,
pretty strong.
as a 23-year-old, which is unbelievable. But why I say it could be life-changing is that if the third principle is like what you do, he loves what he does, and I don't think he's having mental health problems. I think liking what you do is healthy for your body, your soul, and your spirit, and I think you're created that way. And so that was the third principle. And to buy wisdom may mean you might need to hire somebody to help you journey through this thing. But the different idea is corporations, if they want to think differently. There's if we brought somebody in here today, I bet we could put 50 hours of YouTube videos that could streamline their training beyond maybe what the university could do, because the kids today think differently about how to get educated and how to get trained. And I don't know universities keep up with that pace. They're still getting 1 hour lectures, which that's not how the kids are learning.
Right. The attention span's not there for a 1 hour lecture either.
Yeah. So if you can like what you can do, that might be therapeutic to your health. You buy wisdom. There's consultants out there that'll help you find, how to navigate this thing. Live adventurously. Like, I think the idea of going to the university suggests to you that there's a safe way out. I get these 4 years of college or 5, whatever it is, and then I'm going to have an income the rest of my life. Well, that doesn't work. It doesn't. Like, you have to continuously learn no matter what role you're in. And that old idea that the university is going to open the door and I'll be able to stay there from cradle to grave, that's gone away, I think.
One of the things of the university that I like is the social component to it, and it gives a person an opportunity to meet people, to develop their friendships, expand their networks. And so what would be the alternative to that? And it's getting outside your house. I go to a coffee shop every morning, and it's a great place of interaction and hearing other people's ideas. Sat with a guy today who started a recording studio. And so you got to get yourself out there, because if you don't go to college, or when you graduate from college, you have to get out there and mix it up with people. And that's probably the most challenging part right now for our society. And the most needed part is to get out there and just be with people.
That's one of the other think differently ideas I've had in the last week is like, so what if you wanted to compete with the university? What if you're creating a business and you wanted to compete with the university? Because you're talking trillions of dollars going to the university, right? And so there was really not a focused competitive idea about that. However, there wasn't a focused competitive electric car alternative to the gas powered ones. And now Elon Musk is a multi-billionaire. And so somebody can create a solution. And so to me, the idea I was thinking last week is, how would you compete against it? You would have to come up with a social solution, not a training solution. How can we bring young people in a social place to connect them like the university does? And I think there's solutions out there. I think there's an entrepreneur, they may be watching our show today, that will come up with that, and they will use this show today to celebrate their trips to all over the planet with all the money they're making with that idea. But that's thinking differently. Taking risk is then the fourth thing. Live adventurously, and the the entrepreneurs that developed this in 2012, this guy bought an old Jeep pickup truck. I can't think what it was. It was
I don't know.
1960 something Jeep pickup. I don't know what that was called back then. I thought you might know,
Yeah,
but it was a young couple.
Cherokee maybe.
Yeah, he was married, had a young wife, and they lived in Nashville, Tennessee as a Jeep Gladiator.
Gladiator.
Does that
okay.
sound familiar to you?
I know they make them now.
Let's see here. There's what it looks like. I'll share this with y'all.
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
Well, let's share screen. Where's this share screen?
Ah, now I see the picture on his box. Yeah, he's got that truck.
What am I doing here, Doug? Where did I lose? All right. Give me a second, friends, and I'll get this moved over to here. And I'll share it with you what the Jeep Gladiator looks like. And the reason why that's kind of living adventurously is see this guy right here?
The thing I like about that is when he started this, I'm sure his Jeep Gladiator pickup truck was really not all that cool. It was just a means to an end. It looks cool there, but I bet it was just a means to an end.
And it wasn't a good means to because it wasn't working.
Right.
It was
right,
broken. He had to fix it. And so
he
he's
had to bring the peaches to that truck.
yeah. And so what he did was he said, you know what, I miss my Georgia peaches living in Nashville. So he took that truck down to a local farmer, filled the back end with peaches, brought it home, marked them up, sold it, made another trip down. And that's what, you turn over your inventory, and they deliver these in Carmel, Indiana today from that 2012 startup in Nashville, Tennessee. So he was living adventurously with his Jeep Gladiator, filled that thing up, and is selling them today.
I mean, it's the way the world works. Buy it for X, sell it for X. And the thing I like about this is this has time value of money to it.
Oh yeah. You have our friend Phil would tell you, you have a limited amount of time to get that thing sold.
Yeah, if you buy a rail car of these and that car cannot get to the West Coast or whatever, time value of money, you will experience a life lesson there.
Yeah, it's a good one. That's what our friend Phil, they bought a apple orchard, and the first season they could not get rid of the apples fast enough, and they sold it. They sold the orchard just as fast because they're like, this is going to take a lot of brain time to figure out how to get those. But that's thinking differently too. It's like I made a mistake. Let's get out of Dodge with this thing. And then what do you think about generosity, Doug? Like that's a part of financial planning that not a lot of people talk about. Do you have any opinions on generosity?
Today, I think the way it fits inside financial planning is you might hear of a generosity conference, or you might hear of a generosity book. And so it's a strategy to transfer wealth a lot of times to somewhere, to someone, to some group. And I think generosity can be a lot more simple. It can be like, you gave me 4 of these today. And what does that do? I'm going to take these to my family this weekend, and we're going to have an experience. And we're going to talk about the peach truck. And so generosity is pretty simple. It could be the stoke of the heart and the transfer to some kind of action.
It's a way of life, right? It's not a financial planning strategy. It's a way of life. We were generous with our time and took our daughter Kristen to the airport last night. So that was it's a parental thing, people say, but we didn't have to. She could have Ubered, so we took her over. We had a wonderful time taking her in rush hour traffic. We only grumbled a little bit about that, but we got her to the airport, and then the traffic was on 465 coming across the east side with us. And so I looked at Connie. I'm like, what do you suppose? Do you have something for dinner, or should we just eat out tonight? And we negotiated. So I peel off the Shadeland exit to avoid all the traffic, and then we come up Shadeland, and we didn't see anything there. You and I had lunch there, but we were like,
Is it a Greek place? There's something in it anyway.
Yeah, we kind of didn't see anything. Grabbed us. We navigated our way up to 96th Street in Fishers, and there was a Wolfie's there. Yeah. We sat down. We were just having a wonderful time talking about life, and we finished our meal. And the waitress came back and said, "Your meal has been paid for you, Keith."
Unreal.
Yeah, I looked around the restaurant and I thought, huh. And I didn't really give it much thought. I thought that was really kind of someone because I didn't see anybody, but I told Connie, we strategized. I said, well, we'll walk out so we can see everybody, then we'll walk through the patio and see if we see anybody there. And she saw a neighbor that lived several houses down, but we weren't that familiar with them. And I mean, it could have been them, but we didn't know.
I love that you don't know.
Well, we did. I got a text 20 minutes later, but I was perfectly fine not knowing
Yeah.
because that's how we've tried to live over the years. We've tried to express that to other people. And I thought, part of expressing it is just receiving it.
And receiving it can be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't have any problem. I thought, that was kind.
Very cool.
But the person who did it turned out to be my next door neighbor. And I thought that was really cool. I gave him a chance to
Nice.
bless us. And
Way to go, neighbor.
yeah, thanks, Larry. It was a good fun night for us. So generosity is part of that equation that brings joy to life. It brings happiness in the moments because generosity doesn't have to be a big deal. You can make it large and get your name on a building, or you can make it small and give somebody 4 peaches. It's flexible to whatever you want to do.
I am generously watering our lawn out here in flowers today to see some growth, and that's what you'll see too.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been disappointed by being generous, and generosity might be with your time. And if you're a younger person out there, you might even think of offering your time to somebody that's got some seniority on it because they appreciate younger friends. And the benefit also is that there's an exchange of information.
Will you be generous with us and tell us what do you think about this format that we're doing, that Keith and I have been doing? This is 3 years, and it's been amazing for me personally. I know Keith feels the same way because we got to bring our A game. We have to think about this, and it's been wonderful to have some consistency going. Would you be generous and give us some feedback on what you'd like to hear about, maybe when you'd like to see it? If you watch it live or if you watch it recorded, we would embrace what you have to say.
Chances are we're going to shake it up in the
Yeah.
months ahead, but
Just
we will take your feedback, right?
Yep, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, it's a blast doing this, but we want to make sure that what we're doing is profitable for you.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I hope your weekend is spectacular. I am having breakfast with a client tomorrow morning, which always makes it a fun day. And any big plans for the Shreve household this weekend?
We do summer right. Yeah, it's going to be great. Keith and I are going to be heading down to Murray, Kentucky next week. We had different reasons for going, but we're going to unite when we're there. So maybe we'll see you from Murray.
That'll be fun. You guys have a great weekend and see you soon.